I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. So the game I just finished and won turns out to be a very accurate game. 60 moves. Neither my opponent nor I have anything really to hang our heads about. 82% accuracy, 87% accuracy, and he resigned when it was, it was over. But he was playing towards the clock, towards the end, to try to get a draw. I was able to muster my forces with pre-moves in time to make this mating pattern with 2 queens that is very helpful in time trouble. Before we get there, let's go back and review this game. Like I said, this game was accurate, and I am glad to have secured the win. So here I have the black pieces. I want to make sure this is broadcasting correctly. It looks like it is. I can even make my head a little bigger. I was explaining yesterday and the day before about a feature in the GoldenEye game for the N64 Bond, which was a cheat code you could unlock. It wasn't a cheat though. These were modes of play that it'd be hard to consider it cheating. It was just what they named these modes of play that you earned by finishing levels so quickly that it was difficult to do so. And then if you did it, you would earn this particular cheat code. And one of them was DK mode. I thought, Denmark? This is the Denmark mode? And I thought a little later, I thought, Donkey Kong. It's probably the Donkey Kong mode because, in addition to just the players were proportioned differently as a result of this mode, and one of the features was a huge head. I get a kick out of this. I don't know why. Anyway, let's place the board back where it belongs there, George, and I'll take me down to size. Is that a saying for cartoons? Like, oh, that villain, I'm gonna take him down to size. Or maybe it's something the villain would say to I don't know, whatever. I digress. Let's go through this game. Petrov defense, often called the Russian game. I'm not sure. I would like to call it the Russian game because there are other openings, defenses, systems that have a national name and then an alternate to the national name. I'm trying to think of one, but I'd rather call it the Russian game. And if you play the Russian game with knight f6 on move 2 here, be ready to play the 4 knights. If you're going to play the Russian game as black, you should be able to handle the 4 knights. And here we are, knight c6 at the 4 knights. I have a whole spiel on the 4 knights that there's so many chess players these days. There's over 200. I read recently there's over 220 million chess players on chess.com. And then some players, but there's over 200 million chess players. And I bet you that 2 chess players who have never played into the 4 knights opening before in either of their lives, these are 2, maybe a guy and a gal, or a guy and a guy, a gal, doesn't matter. 2, recess-aged children are going to play chess. And neither of them has ever played the 4 knights opening before. But it's possible that because of the 200 million chess players there are, and how the 4 knights develops as pretty much get your knights towards the center, Dad told me so, and always move your e-pawn first. That the 4 knights opening might be played for the first time for both players in the chess game. They play to the 4 knights, and it's both of their first times ever playing this wonderful granddaddy chess opening for the first time, but that happens every day. As nothing against, I don't want to be against anything, but just as a positive, that happens every day. 2 people, one is black, one is white, play the 4 knights opening for the first time in both players' lives. I think it falls out of the numbers. 200 million people playing chess. 200 million chess players in the world. It might. I don't know. I think it does. I think this phenomenon falls out of the numbers of how many people play chess. So I thought that was a cool thought experiment. All right, so we have the four knights. It's White's turn to move. D4 is interesting. It's a book move. I've played the four knights a bit, and I don't come across this very often. I chose to capture on D4, which is one of the ways to play that, and then pinning the B3 knight initiates threat on E4. It's a little bit complicated. Is that really a threat? And I'm not sure. My opponent made it clear that that wasn't the line that I was all that interested in playing. But I did see here that after White plays Knight C6, Black plays Bishop takes C3 with check, and this and White's pawn structure is damaged quite strongly, somewhere between moderately and strongly. Somewhere between moderately and strongly. This is not good. This is not good. White has what's going to be four. White has these four pawn islands, and Black has two. This will favor Black. Note that Black is going to incur some doubled pawns on the queen side, but they're not nearly as bad. So let's jump to that point. I decided to capture on c6 with my pawn. And now with queens facing each other, staring each other down, I was prepared both to capture on d1 and to respond to capture on d8. My opponent blocked both of those ideas out. Not a bad idea. This bishop on d3. Sometimes you don't want to make a tall pawn out of your bishop, but this bishop is doing a lot of defensive work, and strongly so. So I'm not all that worried about, from White's point of view here, of course. From White's point of view, I think that bishop to d3 is a strong, practical move that makes way for a kingside castle and kind of ties down certain points in the pawn structure. H6. Did I play H6? I did. You know, H6, that's weird. That is not a very more gravity-ish move. I played H6 here. I might have been particularly concerned about a pin on G5. Did I play H6 here? Anyway, this pin, I was worried about this pin, so I don't know. I mean, H6? I think given the position again, I might play kingside castles, and then if bishop G5, it is interesting that it's not a very comfortable boot when I kick the bishop off of G5 or put the question to the bishop. I mean, he could capture, but I wouldn't as White here. Moving back to G4 keeps the pin intact, and unless I really want to loosen the pawns in front of my castled king, then this pin stays. I would play G5. Okay. So anyway, I played H6. Let's see one more thing. And after bishop G4, I'm looking to make White's light squared bishop more cumbersome for White. So if pawn to F3, then we have even more pawns on light squares. And I was aware that, and that's exactly what happened again. Pawn to F3, and I pulled the bishop back, and this bishop is now a tall pawn, but also technically a bad bishop. Pawn to e5 opens up lanes for this bad bishop, making it less of a bad bishop. Puts, the screws to, not the screws, puts the knight on f6 under attack, and to that black must respond. So for these reasons, this is a practical good move. Practically speaking, this is a good move. Torch 4 probably finds something wrong with it. Tactically, maybe I'm winning this pawn by force, or with enough time to calculate, we might be able to get it, see if that's the case. I'm wondering if knight d7 wins the pawn by force, because the push f4 isn't available after the pin on the f3 pawn. I can't see a good way for white to hang on. I mean, maybe rook e1, or even bishop f4. I don't know. But it's practically speaking, in a blitz chess game, to force my knight to make a sensible response, or a sensible counter move. And I would look into if knight d7 makes sense. Let's switch views here, and Torch will have some more detailed information on these tactics. Turns out knight d5 is the best move for black, and knight d7 the second best move, and that probably indicates that this knight is not going to be captured by force. So we play knight to d5. It's a strong position, but we're a little bit, as black here, we're a little bit worried about c4, but then again, there's a good move to return home, on knight to b4 to press the issue, and so I'm not all that worried about this knight. He's a freelancing free man. Queen to d2 is just a little bit slow. You probably don't want to lead with the queen if you're going to be attacking really anywhere on the king side. I'm a bit critical of this move. To put your queen in front of your bishop like that is just going to slow you down later on in the attack. She can go to e2, but she has no safe square on the c1 h6 diagonal. So let's give this a fresh board, but it's white's turn to move instead of queen to d2. I think that the pin on the f3 pawn isn't such a bad idea, and maybe queen e2, but then knight takes c3, so not queen e2, unless we want to go into more investigation of that. Queen to e1 makes some sense. You can start pushing this pawn. I don't know. Whatever it is, I don't particularly like queen to d2. Castle's kingside here. Okay. Well, Torch likes bishop g6 first. Exchanging bishops for black doesn't seem like enough, frankly. Yeah, that's okay. Castle's kingside is some kind of mistake due to bishop a3. Looks like black might be trying, or white might be trying to loosen up the defenses around black's king. It's a good move here. Bishop a3, suggested by Torch 4, because I don't want to lose the exchange, so I'll move to e8, but then that starts to loosen up some of the defenses around black's king. Interesting. That's a pretty cool idea. I wonder if after bishop a3, if I were a little bit less adventurous, then um, rook to e8, I might play instead knight to e7. Relying on the queen's protection of the knight like that is not all that great. So, I don't know. I don't know. Instead, played was pawn to c4, and the knight comes back to that position on e7. Like I said, he has this square to go back to. Rook d1, and I missed a winning move here. Yeah, when we made the move that tempted pawn to f3 before, remember we made this move, I said uh, white might clog more of the squares, the light squares, and that's going to work against white's bishop. It also weakened the diagonal on which white's king sits. So I think I would find this move in slower time controls, just FYI, but queen to f1 check. And black can start playing more aggressively. So I missed that. The exchange of bishops, the exchange of queens. I guess I was okay with settling into this endgame. I feel comfortable in endgames like this. Yeah, maybe my opponent's piece is more long range, but it's a game. Neither side is crushing each other. Rook d8 to the open file. My opponent pushes. It's a good push. That pawn on d4 will have more than enough support for right now, and advances down the board. Knight to f5, just challenging. Most of this is probing for weakness on black's part, challenging the defense of d4 a bit. Maybe there's some ideas of knight to f3 with the fork that has to be solved somehow, but just mostly probing for weakness. And I think I got what I found. I got what I signed up for with probing for weakness here. Because there's some weakness, and eventually an opponent will miss a certain nuance that the attacker has in mind, and so grabbing the pawn on c4 was very important here for black, in a way that it started to waterfall or cascade or avalanche from there, because it's another pawn. Capturing loses the rook, of course, and then this I don't understand. Knight, rook to d1. You're leaving your rook open to be lost to the knight. Rook to d1 here just leaves open the exchange for black. So I was happy to see this as a player. As a reviewer, I'm not exactly sure why my opponent gave up the exchange there. Nonetheless, we move on. We're just making moves to trade material, like here on e3, even if it's a pawn, to open up the game a bit for my rook. Open games favor bishops over knights, and I assert open games favor rooks over bishops and knights. And queens, oh no, forget about it. No, but queens, crazy. It's hard to even play some. I find it difficult to even play some positions if there's a few pawns per side, and each side has their queen. It'd be crazy. So many possibilities. Now here, I probably, let's do this. Even before analyzing what happened in the game, I want to show something. This is just a simplifying exchange sacrifice. Rook takes d4. White has nothing, has no ability to win this endgame, really. I say no ability. Not that the person couldn't, but that the position doesn't allow it. And here we're going to use a tricky move. A number of ways to go about this. Yeah, so you see that the I don't know. I feel like finishing this particular game, so here we go. All right. But the point of all this is that the sacrifice rook takes d4 will simplify things on the board. In a time crunch, this is going to simplify things in terms of serious time crunch. 3-1 on the queen side here is what else? I mean, white has to commit his king to the queen side, and black can just come around and find a way to pick off a few king side pawns, not necessarily worrying too much about their material, but more to create a path for promotion on most likely the F file, but possibly the G file. So that's just so this is a good simplifying sacrifice that didn't play in the game, but as a teaching point, I think it's probably a superior move to whatever I played in the game. Okay, here we are back again. Instead, I started moving my queenside pawns before they really needed to be moved. But it's not, we're just going to bully our way towards a promotion. Right. And this, I've mentioned this before, but as a reminder, whenever you see in a king and pawn endgame a side that has passed pawns connected and connected in such a way like this is absolute poison to your opponent's winning chances. Absolute poison to your opponent's king. He cannot capture. Right, just real. I mean, maybe this would be visible for some of us, but as a reminder, the king cannot capture on c3. c3 is protected, and the king cannot capture on b4 because then the c3 pawn is the c2 pawn and is too fleet-footed for the king to capture. It's too fleet-footed for the king to capture, and becomes promoted on c1, almost always to queen, and black will win after that. So not only look out for this as a defending side, but aim for this as an attacking side. Okay? It does have to be, it pretty much has to be with kings and pawns only, and the pawns involved here as black pawns must be unopposed and, passed pawns. They have absolutely no pawns in front of them, nothing to stop them except for the king, and leave them here, and then you can use this as a decoy. Black is going to actually definitely use this as a decoy in this game, so let's carry on. Black approaches this sort of impasse. This is it called a detente? I think it's called an impasse, or this log jam here. I just slowly go around. White can't leave. That's the other thing. White can't leave the protection the limited protection he has against this group. Say some foray over to the king side and c2, but then I'll get you c2. Now you're not protected. Oh yeah, but what about b3? Now he is protected. Oh, I'll get you b3. You're the only one protecting him. Okay, well, even with an extra move, then capture on b3, but then c1 equals queen. So white has to stay here to guard these against the promotion threat, which leaves black very uh, well, overfed. I don't know, very overfed. Black's gonna gobble up some of these pawns here as pieces or morsels even, and this is the rest of this is we see this as one, right? All right, I won. I was glad about that. I played a great game. I was glad about that. I won't clap so loud. Sorry about that. Um, and my opponent played a great game too. No reason for either of us to hang our heads or be upset about the play in this game. This was strong chess play. I had a blast, and it's good. And here's a game, some sort of refresher as to how the game went. Let's take a look. This was a game I played about two games, one game before the one we just reviewed. I'm playing the Khan variation of the Sicilian opening. It's mostly a system. You want to it's a way to really organize your pawns, and a queenside bishop that can be very, very strong in during some games. And it's called the Khan variation. It's part of the Sicilian. It's also part. It sometimes will. It sometimes will lead to the boulder attack. And there's another one that gets coded as from time to time, and that just it's mostly a system by black, but then depending on what white plays, it could be the Khan or the boulder. I think the other one's the Fournier. I might have that wrong. That I'm not very confident in that. Not at all, really. Maybe 50-50, 5 and 10 pick them. But anyway, it's a partially flank and hyper modern idea motivated play by black. You see how strong black controls the queen side. White has the initiative and a lead in development, as well as a slight to moderate lead in central control. It's a game. We play. Queens are off. The pawn escapes the attacking scope of my b7 bishop, but only to reveal more squares available for the bishop to attack. So this does strengthen my b7 bishop, and it's not all so much a bad move aside from that. Knight d7. Some exchange of pieces. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting one. Computers are gonna view this as a bad move. The point about this move is, so what? The king moved, he can't castle, so what? He's helping with the d file. He can support a freeing move like pawn to f6 in some scenarios. The worst part about it is that black's knight can't move to f7, but were we really going to leave the king on the open d file for so long as to accommodate the g8 knight's move from g8 to e7, e7 then onward? There's a lot of places to go onward from there, but is the king really going to sit on d8 all that long? So no. The piece organization goes then knight to h6. And that's actually not that bad. The knight hops to either f5 or f4. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done. So the king on e7, the knight's got a place to hop to, then the rooks are connected. Now we're talking, okay? Now we're talking. Uh, I don't mean to be. I mean, this is a thing. But why it's so bad for king safety? Is it though? Is it really that bad for king safety? Um, we're gonna move ahead tempo here. How bad is this for king safety? Light squared bishop, dark squares. Rook on d7. I got you, all over the place against here, except for maybe rook on d6. But it's black's turn to move. He'll know to play rook to d8 and not let a powerhouse rook come and sit here on d5, scaring all the knights away and everything. And it's only a model. So we're going to deal with that as that may. This is not that dangerous for black's king. The knight on f4, he's only he's like this glancing blow away from attacking the king in one move, which means also that this knight is like a world of dreams away from attacking the black kings. We're not worried about the knight here. And the other knight, c3 is so stable that I don't have 1, 2, and yet the other knight's just as bad. So this move, king e7, king e7. It's a good move, and at very least it's a safe move. We are not worried about king safety for the black king in this position. Okay, so like I said, though, rook d1 is the best try at unnerving this king safety, and I had the answer in mind. Rook to d8, and suppose rook takes d1, king takes d1. All right, an exchange of pieces, and then I'm on the open file. But king c7 and knight e7 are coming, and then the other rook is available for controlling the d file. I'm not worried about that. I think black's doing well here. Well, it's a close game, but there's nothing seriously wrong with either side's position. So my opponent makes this excellent move, knight to d4. Just sort of lengthening this would-be pawn chain. Now it includes a knight, but man, is this powerful? What? Cutting all the way across the board, and it's not clear that black can. It's not clear that black can unseat that outpost. This is a very strong outpost. I think actually the one good thing in black's favor would be knight to f5, and the outpost can be challenged most directly at that. But yeah, so fortunate for black that we had the knight on h6, going back to the king to e7 move in some manner or other. This was probably a bad mistake here. What did I do? What did I do? Bishop takes d3. C takes d3, knight 2 to b3, knight f5. I end up losing the pawn that captures back the piece. That happens. All right, yeah. So, knight to d3, loses a pawn. Bummer. Bishop takes d3, c takes d3. We weren't sure about bishop takes f3. So we don't even double the pawns to lose the minor exchange. And this bishop is, he's got to be extremely powerful. The other side of it is, it's just a lot of ancillary benefits. You think of Kobe Bryant was amazing whenever he was on the basketball court. He also made all those people around him better. Kobe Bryant was known for this. He was, no weaknesses or anything, but he also made everyone around him better at what they were doing. It's kind of how I feel about this. The bishop here is strong, and we want to keep him on the board, but bishop takes f3, and unless my opponent wants to incur these horrible doubled pawns, the right move is knight takes f3, and all of a sudden black's knight on f5 is in the game. And maybe there's so there's some g4 is a one move that can maybe have this all blow up in black's face, but it didn't occur to me or my opponent when we were playing this game. So I sort of thought I'm gonna make a lot of sense out of my other pieces by getting rid of this one pretty glorious piece on the a8. Pretty glorious piece on the a8 h1 diagonal. Yes, there's is a tight game, and then sometimes the story of a game is just a really bad blunder. This happens. This is part of chess. Rook takes d3. Rook takes d3. Rook takes d3, and black has all the strongest play and 4-point material advantage. So my opponent resigns. As a respectful resignation. A game I had a lot of fun playing. So that's that. Was this a continuation of a real? Yeah, this was the other game. Okay. Well, my friends, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.